You've probably heard the phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. Now, that's terrible advice. Yes, leadership requires courage, and courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the addition of faith. What if you could still take bold leaps into the unknown, but from a regulated place where you befriend your fears, self soothe your emotions, and make decisions from inner certainty, inner power, and inner peace? This is what it means to understand the needs of your moon sign, to lead from a grounded, courageous place. Your energy is everything. You don't want to weave scarcity, shame, or separateness into your leadership or your marketing or your launches. So learn to nourish your moon as you take your big leaps. Today's episode is a replay, and we're diving into one of your most overlooked leadership tools in your chart, your moon sign. This episode will help you understand how your moon reveals what you need to feel emotionally secure so you can stop spiraling in uncertainty and start showing up with clarity and courage. Whether you're navigating big change, launching something bold, or standing firm in your values, this episode will help you self soothe, self regulate, and move from fear into meaningful action. Aloha Luminary, I am Leslie Tagorda, your astrologer and brand navigator, here to help you lead with your stars. If you're ready to unlock your one-of-a-kind brilliance, expand your leadership, and harness astrology as a tool for your change-making work and leadership development, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe, and if you know a visionary who needs to hear this, please share it with your business bestie. Let's light the way together. Aloha, aloha. I'm currently in Hawaii taking a much needed break to rest, restore, and reconnect with my own emotional center. But I didn't want to leave you without an episode, especially now as we're deep into Cancer, nurturing, caretaking, and cultivating season, a time that invites us to soften, nurture, and come home to ourselves, to increase our capacity with our inner game. Cancer, of course, is ruled by the moon, which means it's the perfect time to get reacquainted with your moon sign. It's not just for self knowledge, but it's a powerful tool for your leadership through emotional regulation. I recorded this specific episode back in February during a particularly intense wave of collective uncertainty. And 5 months later, the world still feels pretty chaotic. And if anything, it's become even more important to know how to self soothe, to know how to regulate, and to move through fear and uncertainty without letting fear run the show. Your fear has secret gifts and keys that it really truly wants you to know if you can hear what it's saying. So, whether you're launching something new, leading through change, or simply trying to stay steady through the unknowns, this replay is here to help you connect with your inner emotional centeredness. Let's revisit the wisdom of your moon sign and how it holds the key to your resilience, your courage, and your clarity. I have a sense you might need this right now. Now, I'm offering this episode today just as much as for you as for me, because in today's episode, we're diving into how your moon sign is the powerful key to emotional resilience and why nurturing the needs of your moon is essential for navigating the unknown and uncertainty to take big change making action. If you're a leader, if you're a change maker, a business owner, or revolutionary, you need what I'm about to share about your moon sign so that you can self soothe, self regulate, and cultivate that inner peace and self care in these uncertain times. Trust me, I'm sharing this again just as much for you as for me. I'm really feeling it. So, in this episode, I'm going to share why emotional self care and soothing are non negotiables for leaders and change makers. We're going to look at what exactly is emotional regulation and why it matters in your change making work. We're going to look at the moon sign and understand why it's the key to emotional strength and inner safety. And then we'll be using your moon sign to build courage and take big leaps. And I'm going to go through all of the moon signs and show you the keys of how it's related to self regulation, what your zodiac needs to heal. I want to first kind of explore this idea of why leaders, change makers, business owners, visionaries, working from the inside out in corporate or the government, why leaders like you and me need to take action from emotional security and not fear. Because in moments of crisis and uncertainty and pressure, true leadership isn't about reacting, it's about responding from a place of inner security. But how do you lead with clarity when the world is constantly throwing fear and urgency and doubt in your path? This is where emotional self care and self soothing become non negotiable because the most powerful leaders don't push through fear, they learn how to regulate it. Right? You already know that fear is a powerful motivator. It gets us moving, it guides us, but does it truly guide us in the right direction? I honestly have never seen that because if you're making decisions based on fear, like what are you going to buy? Where are you going to go? Who are we going to stay connected to? All of these things are shaped by the fear of missing out. How many courses have you bought because you feared missing out instead of going, oh, this is something that I truly wanted to learn? How many events did you go to? How many things did you buy in bulk because there was like, oh, this is your last chance to buy something in from this place of scarcity and urgency? When we're making decisions from places of scarcity, of urgency, of missing out, we are taking fear-based actions. And we are taking fear-based actions. These are going to be producing results that do not align with your highest path. When I say aligning with your highest path, I mean towards your purpose, towards your values, towards what is really meaningful for you right now, knowing what you want. And knowing what you want, what you desire is very hard to see. It's very hard to get clear when there's so many things bogging down on you, when there's so many like, oh, I'm missing out on sales. Oh, I'm missing out on making money. Oh, I'm all of these things. Okay. Even if you've been, laid off right now, or your job might be on the line right now, and you're being forced to do things that are out of your values, I can understand where you might be needing to make decisions based on fear. But what if? What if you said no? What if you took that leap of faith to trust that there's something better waiting for you on that other side? Of course, it's unknown. So, how do we know? And part of fear is that fear of the unknown because, working at that job that you hate, but it pays the bills. Yes, sometimes we have to pay the bills, but what if there's something better waiting for you when you finally say, I can't do this anymore. It doesn't align with my values. It doesn't light me up. It doesn't put me on my highest path. If you read the news, if you read Entrepreneur Magazine, if you read all these other kinds of places that have these like feel good stories about people who left their tech jobs and like opened a wine company, or left their tech jobs and started shucking oysters, or left their cushy job and started doing these big things, maybe they're not making as much money, but that fulfillment, that inner joy, and that inner happiness is so much more priceless and valuable than the paycheck. Now, I know that everybody has different needs and different resources and different things that they need to take care of. So, of course, we have to make those decisions that are going to support our needs. But I want you just to bring that grain of truth and understand if you're making these decisions out of fear and looking at just kind of the short term, short sighted choices, making rush choices, seeking external validation instead of trusting yourself. Are you keeping small instead of stepping into your full potential? And so, as a leader, we are going to be faced with all of these fears all the time because we are trying to make change. We're trying to do good in the world. We're trying to do things that people have never done. And so, there's always going to be fear because there is that unknown. And so, if you are a leader, if you're trying to make that big change, I want you to see that if you're making changes from fear, that's not necessarily going to bring you to the place that you truly want to go. I know I've been working on this. I've been helping my clients work on this because they're juggling a lot of different things. How do we stay true to our path? Now, when you're leading from this place of emotional security, remember that emotional security doesn't mean that there is no fear. But to cultivate emotional security means that you will become a stronger leader. Now, what do I mean by emotional security? Emotional security is that feeling of inner certainty. Now, yes, it's going to waver, just like the tides waver. And that's why our emotions are related to our moon signs. They come in waves. But emotional security means that deep down inside that you can trust yourself. You can trust yourself to prioritize your needs. You can trust yourself to being able to make decisions from clarity. You can trust yourself to get up and start again if things don't go as planned. And yes, there are practices and tools that we can look to from our moon sign to build up and flex that muscle of emotional security. Because emotional security isn't something that you're necessarily just born with. Now, of course, there are people who are predisposed to be like really strong and really brave and just like go get it no matter what. But for those of us that are sensitive, we have to build up our capacity to create that emotional security. Because when you are feeling secure in yourself, when you are feeling successful, when you are feeling courageous, when you are feeling, unstoppable, that is that regulation, that emotional security, that certainty that leads you to make better decisions from a place of emotionally groundedness when you're making choices and from alignment and not panic. It's allowing you to, put away that survival mode. Again, remember that story in the beginning. It's like, are we truly in survival mode? Or is this just kind of this urgency and fallacy that society is telling us that we're actually okay and we're safe? And so if we're always reacting to things, we're not truly leading. We're just managing chaos. We don't want that. And you can tell that when somebody is like emotionally secure, they have that presence, that presence of just certainty that I can just take on whatever challenge comes my way without just kind of like bending at the knee all the time. Your presence really truly impacts others. So when you feel safe and secure, you create a sense of safety and security for all of those around you, for your teammates, for your clients, for your community, for your family, for your children. And so, creating that sense of emotional security, not because there's not fear, but because you are certain that you have the tools, the tools to be able to get through. And when you are feeling emotionally secure and when you are cultivating that emotional security, your trust is being built. People are drawn to you because you have that clarity of vision, that you're not just wavering and not volatile. So, really creating and cultivating and growing that emotional security within yourself does equal stronger leadership. Your ability to take lead and take big leaps isn't about pushing harder. It's about knowing how to return to your emotional center. And that's where your moon sign comes in. Because your moon sign, as we're going to discover, holds your key to self soothing, your healing, your resilience, and leading from a place where your needs are met. So let's dive in and explore how to use your moon sign to regulate, reset, and reclaim your power. So you already know that your moon sign is one of your big three: sun, moon, rising. Your sun sign is the what you do that radiates through you, that is your creative brilliance, that differentiates you from everybody else that does the same thing as you. Your moon sign is what you need to feel, the unconscious motivators, the unconscious why that you need to bring up into consciousness because you need to see how they're driving you to take action. So, your unconscious why, your needs. Some even say that your moon sign really connects you to your past, it connects you to that relationship with your primary caretaker. And that set the stage of just like how you experience the world and your resilience. But you know what? You can shift that. Even if you grew up in with your childhood being really difficult, with not having good role models for how to create emotional security, how to have emotional intelligence, you can learn how to do this. And your specific moon sign holds the key. So when we're thinking about your moon sign, not only do we know its sign, but we also want to know its house placement. And we also want to know if it has any aspects to other planets, meaning relationships to other planets, because all of those things are going to add to the specificity of your moon sign. Now, I'm not going to be able to get into all of those specificities today, but when we understand all of those things that make up your moon sign, they really show us what you need to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel successful. When I've been working with a lot of my clients, we spend so much time on the moon sign because this is that place of what I call the inner awakening, where we really need to root down to do that kind of inner journeying, to look at our emotional states, to look at our mindset, to look at our spiritual and emotional health, to be able to rise. Because if we are not rooted, meaning if we don't have that emotional security, if we don't have that inner self-certainty, we can't we can't blossom to our highest potentials. That's why I talk about the path of leadership is both that inner journey of inner awakening that is in the realm of the moon sign, that inner peace, that inner private spaces, as well as that outer journey of how you're expressing yourself in the world. So when we come back to the moon sign, again, it teaches us that, hey, our earliest childhood experiences based on our moon sign, we can see the challenges that we've had to overcome, that we've had to live through, that have really shaped how we see the world, how we reflect in the world. And when we understand all of those challenges, we can give it without judgment, without shame, that inner love, that TLC and that healing. That moon, of course, is our moon child, our inner child that we are here to nourish. Because you know that when your inner child feels fed, feels held, feels heard, then your inner child can soften up and tell you what it needs, and really so that you can cultivate and nurture it. Now, these are non negotiable needs. Like I was saying with a lot of my clients, a lot of us have learned to shut down those needs, thinking that those needs are luxuries. Those needs are, we might have heard stories from our family or heard stories from society saying, oh, you're too wild, you're too passionate, you're too sensitive, right? And we're getting judged for these things as we're growing up, whether again from society, from our education, from our family, not knowing that most of our parents were not astrologers, did not know how to truly cultivate our needs. And so they were making us feel shame for the things that we truly needed. And so therefore we stopped speaking up for the things that we needed. But now that we are, full grown-ups here and looking and trying to do our best in our leadership, it's our job to nurture and feed our inner child to create that emotional strength. And that comes from our moon sign. So can you imagine if you were a Cancer moon who is so sensitive, and instead of your parent says, oh, why are you crying again? Stop crying. You're so sensitive. Instead, they said, your tears are your power. How can you feel into those tears? What are those tears teaching you? Just like in that movie, Inside Out, if you haven't seen that Pixar movie, it's so beautiful where we are learning the power of sadness, the power of joy, the power of anxiety, and how our emotions are really showing us what we need. Now, oftentimes when I talk about that moon sign, and as you're talking about how our emotions can either make it or break it for us in terms of like making decisions based out of fear versus making decisions based out of emotional security, our emotional center becomes that gatekeeper. If we get inspired by fire to do this great next new thing, and then we think about it in the realm of air where we like logicize it, try to figure out how things happen, before we can take earthly action in our hands, it first has to go through our heart, our moon. And if the moon, if your inner child, if your inner sense of self is like saying, oh, that's scary, that's too much, I don't know what to do, this is not clear, I'm really afraid of like my ego's health, my physical health, all of those things, the moon sign is going to say, it's going to stop it from happening, and it's going to start making decisions based on fear. But if your moon sign is feeling regulated, if it's feeling secure, if you know like if for me, like going on a walk or taking a shower or doing my breathing exercises helps me come back to myself, helps me create that calmness in the center of a storm or chaos, then I can say, ah, that is not what I want. This is what I need. This is what I need to make my decisions. This is what I need to go where I want to go, despite all of the outward signs telling me not to. And so when you understand that your moon is that gatekeeper that is going to allow you to make decisions based on courage, based on security versus based on scarcity and fear, your moon sign all of a sudden has a way more important role. Okay. You do not want your moon sign, those unconscious fears, to be making your decisions. That's why you want to bring those unconscious fears to consciousness so that you can start to make better decisions. So let's talk about what this exactly means and how you can use your moon sign to build courage so you can take some big leaps. Now, remember that the moon represents your emotions, your intuition, your inner security. It represents your past. It represents your relationship to your primary caretaker and all those patterns that were created. Now, when we look at those past patterns that were created from our emotional caretakers or our primary caretakers, for me, I did not have a good relationship with my mom. My mom was an addict and she was in and out of hospitals. She was not dependable. And you can kind of see that in my natal chart with my moon conjunct Neptune. Right? Just emotionally unavailable. And so I learned at a very early age to suppress my emotions, to avoid them, to run away from them, because there was no really good outlet for them. Now, as a grown up, I can recognize my default emotional responses that are like under duress or under fear or under stress, which is not really useful when running a business or when being in a relationship or anything. And I've needed to learn how to say, okay, how do I turn that emotional avoidance, that pattern that I've had, and to look at the emotional avoidance, not with judgment, not with shame, not with saying, oh, look at you avoiding again, and say, oh, I recognize that I am avoiding right now. What are the things that I need to nourish that moon conjunct Neptune? Well, for me, that moon conjunct Neptune being very spiritual, being very compassionate, that tells me that avoidance is I actually need more spiritual connection. I actually need more compassion. And I do so much better when I have a daily practice of connecting with spirit. Sagittarius moon conjunct Neptune in the 6th house of daily practice. And so when you're looking at your moon, of course, I want you to understand your triggers. I want you to know those fears, those emotional triggers of yours that throws you off balance. Because a key to self-regulation and self-soothing is to recognize your triggers, not without judgment, right? Like not with saying, oh, there goes that trigger again. No, it's about saying, I'm experiencing emotional dysregulation without judgment and asking myself, how can I come back to this place of regulation? So if, we're all going to get triggered. And when we get triggered, it's about coming back to our sense of self again. And so how do we do that? Well, first is recognizing that trigger. And then the second part is knowing what your self soothing practices will be. And so I'll be sharing about self soothing practices for each of the moon signs in just in the next section. But so recognize your trigger, know what your practices are, what you need for self soothing and emotional regulation. And so have those in your back pocket. Know exactly what you need. It's like, oh, I have 5 minutes to like kind of center myself in. Okay, well, I'm going to do this breathing exercise. Oh, I have an entire day to take care of my needs. I'm going to go schedule a massage. I'm going to go take yoga classes. Oh, I need to be working on this over a longer amount of time. I need to create these daily practices, these weekly practices. But knowing what your practices are that really counteract your triggers based on your moon sign is going to really open you up. And then, of course, checking with your lunar cycles, not just where the moon is today, but like knowing this is a little bit a more advanced technique that I'll be sharing in celestial cycles at the end of the year is like knowing what your individual lunar cycle is based on, I'm born on a waning moon. My moon is right before the new moon. And so sometimes those new moons are more powerful for me than those full moons. So your lunar cycles are going to be very individual to you that we won't necessarily have time to get into today. But I really want to talk now about each of the zodiacs and each of the moon signs so that you can really feel secure about how to know your moon sign and how to nourish it, how to nurture it, how to feed it its needs based on your moon sign. Again, we won't have time to look at the house placement and the different planets that you might have aspecting your moon. We're just going to be looking at the zodiacs. But if you're interested into deepening your astrology and to knowing all of those nuances and the specificity of your moon sign, I really encourage you to sign up for Astro Brown 101 and begin to decode your moon sign so that you can really give yourself that emotional stability that you need to take those big leaps. So let's get into those moon signs so that you can create a practice of self regulation and know what your sign needs to awaken in its inner healing journey. Now, your moon sign is dependent on your time of birth. The moon travels through the zodiac every 2.5 days or so. So the moon moves pretty quickly and it can change signs in one day. So if you don't know your birth time, reach out to me. I have some resources for rectification astrologers who can help you reverse engineer your time of birth so that you can know your moon sign and, of course, your rising sign. Let's dive into each of the moons. So, of course, we're going to start with Aries moons. I have a special place in my heart for Aries moons. I actually do know why I have so many clients with Aries moons. I have so many clients with Aries moons because these Aries moons need to be the best, need to be the first, need to know themselves so well, and they love working for themselves. Not only do they love working for themselves, they need to work for themselves because they have to go their own way. And so, of course, if you are a business owner or you're a leader or you're a change maker, it is quite likely that you have an Aries moon. Now, don't, even if you don't have an Aries moon and you have all of those other things, don't be afraid. You can still lead, you can still go your own way. But I've noticed that with my Aries moon clients, that self-regulation for them, meaning coming back to themselves, is really using their bodies, using movement, using workout. I love Aries moons that have a practice of martial arts. Now, these workouts, you don't have to be like going all in, like high intensity. You can still be doing Tai Chi. You can be doing yoga, martial arts. You can still be doing slow martial arts or low impact martial arts. But really moving your body is something that is really important for you. Also, head massages massages are really wonderful because, Aries represents the head and the jaws. And so you might have some tightness in your jaw. You might be prone to headaches. So, things that you can do to lessen the stress in your head and a little bit of your neck, but really working out that energy out of your body is going to help regulate your moon. Now, when you're thinking about that healing journey of the Aries moon, the healing journey is really about your self-awareness and discovering who you are. For the Aries moon, whose parents and caretakers might have been saying, don't be so wild, don't be so competitive, don't be like all of those things, right? Well, Aries is here to be wild. Aries is here to want to be their best selves. Aries is here to want to be the first, to have that competitive edge. And so having that self-awareness without judgment and knowing who you are is truly are, not what others are shaming you or judging you to be, is truly on that path of inner awakening. So, Aries moons, move your bodies, build up that heat, advocate, you know, be that first person. That is what you need. For my Taurus moons, now all of your needs here, you might have been judged for, oh, that's superficial, or you're eating too much, or you're lazy, or you're just always wanting to like feel comfortable. Please understand that those things that you might have been judged for are truly needs for you. As a fixed earth moon, you need to feel those creature comforts. You need those bear hugs. You need those weighted blankets. You need those soothing scents and soothing materials. You need to be eating really filling and delicious and satisfying foods for you. That's what makes you regulated. All of your tactile and physical experiences, all of your sense, your eyes, your smell, your hearing, your touch, your taste, all of those things, when you are satisfying those, of course, within reason, this is going to be able to soothe you. Those Taurus moons are one of those moons that really, really need a lot of physical soothing sensations. And when you're on your inner journey, you're really looking at how to heal your sense of self-worth. Are you worthy of having? Are you worthy of belonging? Are you worthy of doing what you're doing? And so, really analyzing your messages of self worth is really going to open you up, and it's really going to help soothe and regulate you when you're making some big decisions. For my Gemini moons, to regulate yourself is to feed your mind. It's to feed the way that you think about things. It's to be in movement, to be quick, reading and journaling and socializing, to do some breath work, to get out into fresh air. As an air moon, being with air, being with other people it helps you regulate. So co-regulate with your friends, surround yourself with the people that you feel safe with is going to really help that Gemini moon. If you are thinking about a problem, really talking through that problem or writing about or journaling about that problem is really going to help you move through things, help you get centered. And when you're on that kind of self-awakening, that inner awakening process, what you are looking for is self-expression. What do you think? What do you say? How is your message? How are you feeling safe to express yourself is really what needs to be opened up and awakened in yourself. You might have been told as a young child that you're too talkative, you're disrupting the class because you're talking too much and sending all of those notes and just going around. But what you really truly need is to talk about things, is to be that social butterfly, is to be like sharing ideas around. So as you're really, coming to terms with those kinds of past experiences where you were judged for being too Gemini moon, Really think about how you need to really feed and nurture those parts of your ability to express yourself, express your ideas, and be being with others. For my Cancer moons, emotional, sensitive. I love my Cancer moons. Cancer is such an important energy that is the energy of nurturing and feeding and allowing people to feel so safe, so seen that we can soften and open up to our truest selves. So, how do you do that for yourself to regulate yourself? Well, of course, water, of course, home, maybe family or the people that you call family, your self-care rituals, being in your safe spaces, having those like spaces that are like almost like a cave where you can like hermit and hibernate, where you can have that sense of being held, like making your home, just like parts of your home, just so secure and private and therapeutic for yourself. So soothe yourself with your own self-care rituals, with cultivating your own safe spaces and really nurturing your needs, feeling that kind of softness and opening up, remembering that it's okay to cry, that it's okay to feel, because on your inner journey of awakening, you're really opening up to that idea of, is it okay to feel? What do I feel without judgment? And really understanding that that feeling is trying to teach you something. It's trying to show you what your needs are at that time. And so how can you practice the self-care to feed and nourish and nurture those needs? Your feelings, your emotions, your sensitivity are such a superpower that you are here to understand the needs of those emotions so that you can nurture them yourself. All right, my Leo moons, kind of similar to those Aries moons, all those fire moons, Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. They are just passionate people. Okay. They need to be free. They need to shine bright. And this is ever more so for that Leo moon. You can't tell the fire where to go. The fire is going to go where it wants to go. And so if you are a Leo moon, some of those things to regulate yourself absolutely have to do with joy, creativity, happiness. And so whatever lights you up is what you need to do to regulate yourself. Singing, dancing, laughing, going to see comedy, reading comedy, LED light therapy, artistic and creative play. Notice when you were a child, what lit you up and how does that still light you up? How does expanding that open up something creative within you? And so to regulate yourself, really go back to what brought you joy when you were young, what brings you joy now, and follow that bliss. When you're opening your path to that kind of inner awakening and healing that really secures you down, your practice is of self-love. It is of knowing what lights you up and without judgment, going after those things. Now, maybe as a child with your Leo moon, you love to paint the walls. Maybe you love to color everything in like bright colors. Maybe you love to wear the most bright, audacious things. And then maybe you heard judgment from like the people and the caretakers in your life of like, you can't wear that, that mismatches, or stop showing off, or like, don't be so loud. And, like, why are you always wanting to be up on stage? And remember, those are total keys and cues into what lights you up. Wear the bright things, wear all the bling, wear all of those foot candy and those like cute little socks with your high heels. Do what really lights you up without care of what other people will think about you, because that is your path to inner awakening. For my Virgo moons, Virgo, of course, is an energy of integration. mind, body, spirit, to look at things and doing things and your actions almost as a spiritual practice. I love yoga for Virgo moons because it integrates mind, body, and spirit through breath, through movement. Of course, breath work is also good for Virgo moons. Gardening or working with the earth or working with your hands is really good for the Virgo moons. That's also good for the Gemini moons too. Organizing things, making sure things are not cluttered, mindfully eating, really highly nutritious food, creating different structures and rituals for yourself, not structures that are so rigid, but structures that allow you freedom, that allows you to create a daily practice, something that you can do regularly, like a ritual. On your inner journey, you're really asking yourself what makes you whole. Again, probably for the Virgo moon child when you were young, you probably didn't want to do anything if it wasn't going to be perfect. You were probably getting stuck and like going, oh, I'm not good at that, so I don't even want to try it. Or you were really hypercritical of yourself. And really being able to open up and understand that there's no such thing as perfection, that instead of perfection is what makes you whole. I know that my son is a Virgo moon. And so we've been working a lot on this. And I'm so glad that I know my child's astrology because oftentimes he won't even tell me what's going on in his mind because he's too ashamed to say that I don't want to try something because I'm not going to be good at it. So I invite him to talk about the things that he's not good at, what he's afraid of, so that we can make a plan together, Virgo, make a plan together of how he might want to experiment and try something out, knowing that getting better is an iterative process. So your healing journey is like, what can you iterate? What can you self integrate? And what makes you whole? Not perfect. For my Libra moons, part of your regulation truly is co-regulation. It's around socializing and being with people. But for Libra moons, more than being with, your friends or like groups of people, it's being with like partners. Maybe you have a co-working partner that you share ideas with. Maybe you have your romantic partner that is really attuned to your needs that you can co-regulate with. Maybe you love like socializing and like, one-on-one kind of socializing. But also Libra moons need their beautiful spaces. They need to feel that they are part of a partnership, but also interdependent, not codependent, that they're collaborating and sharing, that they're creating harmony and balance in all of their spaces, both physical spaces as well as their energetic spaces. And so to know that the Libra moon needs their bridges, needs their people, needs their bonding, when you're thinking about your pathway to inner healing, your key question is, who are you connected to? And seeing the value in those relationships, but not fully giving yourself all into the relationship, creating that self balance, knowing yourself well enough to be interdependent, but not codependent. That is a strike of a really good balance. Just like that Aries, to know yourself so well, to not get absorbed into a relationship, that you still have your sense of self, your sense of self balance of what you need, so that you can, give and take in a reciprocal, mutually beneficial relationship. Okay. Those are how you co-regulate for those Libra moons. For Scorpio moon next. Scorpio moon is one of these moons that get judged so harshly because it is such an intense moon. And like we were talking about the Cancer moon, and we'll talk about the Pisces moon, it's extra absorbent. All this water is very absorbent. And so Scorpio moon can get really, really heavy when it's just not able to let go of deep emotions that are no longer serving. Those things like envy or jealousy or feeling like you've been disrespected or not appreciated. The Scorpio moon can really hold on to those past experiences. And let me tell you, it's not doing you any good. Okay. When we're holding on to too many emotions that we're not really, like emotional baggage that we're not willing to let go of, this can really dysregulate that kind of Scorpio moon because you're just holding on to too much. It's making you feel really emotionally constipated. And so for Scorpio moon to regulate yourself is to figure out how to let go and figure out how to know that you are still powerful, that you can still trust yourself, even when you let those things go. Because for a Scorpio moon, that self trust is at the heart of everything that you need to be creating for yourself to regulate. So, having those deep conversations, if you're not feeling safe to have deep conversations with the people that need to hear it, then having those deep conversations with your journal or writing a letter to another person's highest self so you can let those things go. Doing the shadow work, the deep exploration of facing your fears and befriending your fears and understanding what they want from you, understanding all of those deep places and bringing light to them instead of just repressing them down. Bringing things up to light for that Scorpio moon is your key to regulation. Letting things go, spiritual connection, stillness, eating a high fiber diet so that you can also keep your body on a regular schedule of letting things go, taking care of yourself that way. Of course, working with water is always really good for the Scorpio moon. But on your healing journey, on that inner awakening, you're really cultivating this idea of self trust. Instead of looking outwards or blaming other people for you not having the things that you need, is allowing yourself that self trust to be able to give yourself what you need because you are powerful. Ultimately, you're healing this idea of what makes you powerful. And what makes you powerful is healing your self trust, is knowing that your intuition is on point, that your red flags are always showing you your red flags, that your instincts are telling you what you need. And so understanding that, trusting that is at the heart of your power. So whatever you need to do to regulate that self-trust is what you need to self-soothe, Scorpio moon. All right, calling all my Sagittarius moons like myself. Regulating for Sagittarius is about exploring. It's about feeding that lifelong learning. What do you want to explore? How do you want to broaden your horizons? How do you want to expand your perspectives? Now, oftentimes, if you just have 5 minutes, right, to regulate that Sagittarius moon, sometimes it's just imagining and envisioning and doing a visualization so that you can take a bird's eye view and see things from a different perspective. Sometimes maybe you have a day or an afternoon where you want to go explore. So you can take these mini explorations where you live. Maybe you even just want to take a different path home the next time. That's really how to regulate that Sagittarius moon, is getting a different perspective and broadening your mind. And part of the Sagittarius moon is really healing your belief in yourself. The inner awakening, your inner journey is believing in your capacity, believing in yourself, finding out what your own beliefs are that are different from others. Understanding, why do you believe this? If you have a Sagittarius moon, maybe you've been told what to believe or to not believe in yourself, that, like the experts are always living outside of you, that divinity and God lives outside of you. But for Sagittarius moon, this is really coming back to your inner belief that you already know your way. And so part of that healing for you, believing in yourself, knowing your way, and regulating and self-soothing yourself is about getting your own higher perspective. All right, for my Capricorn moons, this is another moon that I've noticed for my clients. This is also a challenging moon because Capricorn moons are one of those moons that say there is an expert about something. And usually for a Capricorn moon, at least for the immature, for the young Capricorn moon, it's always looking for that expertise outside of themselves. But really coming back to that Capricorn moon is that expertise lives within yourself. So understanding that your own self-determination isn't about obligation and duty and like hard work for others, but it's about your own goals, your own desires, your own wisdom and lived experience that already lives within you. Capricorn moons are those wisdom holders. Those wisdom holders, sometimes there's been generations of gaps of wisdom lost through colonization or through assimilation, where you forget what your expertise is, where you forget the wisdom of your ancestors. And so for Capricorn moon, it's to really feed those needs, to feed your dreams, to remember that you are the expert, that your lived expertise is enough. And so to regulate your Capricorn moon is to build your strength, build the strength of your bones, build the strength of your boundaries, practice saying no, practicing prioritizing and creating structures around the things that you want. So grounding yourself, feeling your feet in the earth. You have 5 minutes that you need to regulate yourself. Get your feet on the earth. You have an hour, maybe do some strength training, whatever that means for you, so you feel strong in your bones. Maybe you have a longer term things, having a plan that is flexible, that prioritizes the steps that you need to take to accomplish your goals. Those are always going to work for the Capricorn moon. Remembering that your inner path of inner awakening is about seeing yourself as the expert, to know that your self-determination has to focus inwards first before you can give it outward. So when you're thinking about your inner awakening and your inner healing, how will you heal your sense that you are the expert, that you are the authority figure? Because you need to be seen as that expert. For my Aquarius moon, this is also one of those interesting moons that I find with my clients because these Aquarius moons are ready to leave their family constellation, their soul family constellation, but they still want the love and the belonging of their family as they explore other horizons, similar to that Sagittarius, but now this is much more interpersonal. So the Aquarius moon, just like the other air signs, Libra and Gemini, really need to be with other people. And social connections, community connections is really an easy pathway to co-regulate, to be with other people, to talk about things. Of course, Aquarius rules the nervous system. So any kind of nervous system regulation, whether this be tapping, or acupuncture or other types of energy healing. I love binaural beats. It just kind of puts my brain particularly into this kind of I can think, I can focus kind of thing. And so for the Aquarius moon, whatever you need to calm that nervous system will help self-soothe you. And of course, being in community. So community acupuncture would be amazing for this Aquarius moon. Now, remember that Aquarius moon needs to feel that it's independent, needs to feel that it can be unique, but it also needs to feel that it belongs. It needs to belong to a community. And so when we're thinking about that Aquarius moon and the inner journey of this Aquarius moon, it's really thinking about like, well, where do I belong? And even if you tend to be like maybe the black sheep of the family and you don't belong to your family, there are communities with shared social values where you do belong. And so understanding your self-authenticity, where do I belong that I can be uniquely myself is the key to awakening that healing journey for the Aquarius moon. Because yeah, you need to belong, and you need to belong as uniquely yourself. And lastly, for my Pisces moons, your sensitivity is so vast and so deep. Just like the Cancer and Scorpio moons, again, you're very absorbent. So, really being able to filter out what is yours and what is not yours. You might have been, as a youngster, really judged for being too sensitive, for really just being in flow, but that's really truly what you need. But of course, to be in flow isn't just meaning to like be with the wind or be with the currents and going wherever the current is going. You can still have direction. You can still have clarity. So self-regulating for Pisces moon is a lot of times when you're feeling dysregulated, you're feeling others' emotions that don't belong to you. So emotional clearing, energy clearing, being in creative states and flow, whether it's music or art, from this kind of creating a vibe, creating this kind of energy, this ambiance that you need. Vibe is everything for you, Pisces moon. So creating your spaces that cultivate those clear vibes, those energies, those feelings, those emotions, those frequencies that you want are going to be very important to regulating you. Of course, anything with water, being near the ocean, being near living water is also going to be very, very soothing for you. Of course, stay hydrated. This goes for all the moons, but specifically for the Pisces moon. And so for you, Pisces moon, because you've been looking at this idea like I am too sensitive, I am too emotional, I am too too much for everything. For you, really, it's like, how can you be in the moment? How can you be in flow? And how can you be so self-compassionate for yourself, knowing that all of your feelings, just like Scorpio, just like Cancer, are there to tell you what you need right now, with empathy, with love, and compassion. So, inner awakening for you is to recognize that your emotions are valid, that your emotions are necessary, and that you have capacity to be able to not necessarily control your emotions, but to say how and when and why you're going to use your emotions, that you're not a victim to your emotions, but that you're here to be the vessel of your emotions with self compassion. You are here to create other worlds, to create other energies and frequencies and vibes for everyone. So do that for yourself first so that you can then feed those needs of your emotions before you go out and helping others. Use your emotions to know that you are so interconnected, and just like Scorpio and Cancer, super intuitive, that you already know. You have that emotional knowing. So, my friends, if you have listened this long, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you can see that your moon is such an important tool in your leadership, because when we're not feeling regulated, when we're not feeling emotionally secure, we start making decisions based on fear that never bring us along our highest path. But when we are feeling so secure in ourselves, when we are being able to self-soothe and self-regulate, we can have the clarity and courage to make those decisions, to make those choices, even if they're unknown, even if things don't go as planned. We can get back up again, knowing that we can do it again because we are operating from a place of inner emotional self-security, that our roots run deep because we've been doing our inner awakening journey and healing work. Okay. The higher you want to rise in your work, in your leadership, in your impact, the deeper you need to work on your inner self, your emotional wellness, your spiritual health. Thank you, everyone. If you love this episode and you're ready to go deeper with how the moon and other planetary energies and timing shape your personal life, your rhythms, and your emotional capacity, then join me this August for Celestial Cycles, a live 4-week intensive into syncing your life and leadership with the cosmos. We'll be exploring your personal lunar and solar cycles, retrograde seasons, and larger meta seasons of success so that you could stop working against the stars and start planning your launches, rest, success, creativity, all in divine timing. So mark your calendars. We'll have more details on celestial cycles soon. For more information, head on over to my website, starpowered.com/celestial cycles. Because when you lead with divine timing, your capacity grows, your intuition sharpens, and your impact expands. Let's light the way together with our own star powers. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.